In the last lesson, we learned about classes and objects, which is the foundation of object-oriented programming. In this lesson, we are going to learn about inheritance. Inheritance is one of the most powerful features of object-oriented programming. It allows one class to receive or inherit the properties and methods of another class. Let me explain it with a real-world example. Think about people and their jobs. Every person, regardless of their job, has certain things in common. Every person has a name, an age, and an email address. Every person can introduce themselves. But different types of people have additional things specific to their role. For example, in a school, everyone in a school is not the same. Some are teachers, some are students, while some are doctors that treat sick students. But regardless of their role in the school, they all have some things in common, which include name, age, and email. But a teacher has a subject they teach. Students and doctors do not have this property. A student has a score. Teachers and doctors do not have this property. Likewise, a doctor has a specialization. Teachers and students do not have this property. Without inheritance, you would have to write the name, age, and email and the introduce method separately inside every single class. That is repetition. And repetition in programming is something we always try to avoid. With inheritance, you create one parent class, also called a base class, that contains the common properties and methods. Then you create child classes, also called derived classes, that inherit everything from the parent and simply add what is specific to them. The child class gets everything the parent has for free without rewriting a single line. Let's open the terminal and go into our working directory. Let's create a new file for this lesson. Let's name it inheritance.py. Switch to the insert mode. Let's start by creating a parent class. Press escape, then save. Let's run the file. You can see that it introduced the person correctly. Now, let's create a child class that inherits from the person class. Let's update the file. Press escape and save. Let's run the file. You can see that teacher1 called introduce method, which it inherited from the person class, and also called teach method, which belongs to the teacher class. Student1 also called the introduce method, also inherited from the person class, and then we accessed its score and grade. Neither teacher nor student defined their own introduce method. They both simply inherited it from the person class. Yet, both of them can use it perfectly with their own data. This is inheritance in action. Now, let me explain the two new things we saw in the code. Class teacher, open bracket, person, close bracket. To make a class inherit from another class, you write the parent class name inside the bracket after the child class name. So, class teacher, open bracket, person, close bracket, means create a class called teacher that inherits from the person class. Everything in person is now available to the teacher class automatically. Inside the class child init method, you saw this line super open bracket close bracket dot init open bracket name comma age comma email. Super refers to the parent class. So super open bracket close bracket dot init open bracket name comma age comma email means call the init method of the parent class and pass in these values. This sets up the parent attributes, that is self.name, self.age, self.email in the child object. After that, we add whatever is specific to the child class. For teacher, we add self.object. For student, we add self.score. So that the pattern is call super.init to set up the parent attributes, then add the child's own specific attributes. This is the standard way of writing inheritance in Python. Now let's learn about method overriding. Method overriding means the child class defines a method with the same name as the method in the parent class. When the child's method is called, Python uses the child's version, not the parent's. This is useful when the child class needs to do something slightly different from what the parent does. Let's try that. Press escape and save. Let's run the file. You can see that when teacher1.introduce method is called, it prints the name, age, and email from the parent introduce method and then adds I teach Python programming on top. When student1.introduce method is called, it prints the same base information and then adds my score is 85. Both child classes overrode the introduce method, but inside their own version, they called super.introduce first to still run the parent version and then added their own extra line. This is a very clean pattern. The parent handles the common part. Each child handles its own specific part. Now let's look at a practical example with more child classes. Let's create another file named animal.py. Switch to insert mode. Then let's write the following codes. Press escape and save. Let's run the file. You can see that every animal called the describe method and speak method both inherited from the animal class with their own specific data. Notice that for dog, cat, and cow, we only pass the name when creating them. The sound was handled automatically inside each class init method because a dog always says woof, a cat always says meow, and a cow always says moo. That information is fixed in the child class. Also notice that we put all three objects in a list and looked through them. Because they all inherit from animal class, they all have the same methods. This is another powerful feature of inheritance. You can treat objects of different classes in the same way as long as they share a common parent. Now let's build a final practice program for this lesson. Let's create a new file named schoolsystem.py. Switch to insert mode, then let's type some codes. Press escape, then save. Let's run the file. You can see a complete school management system. Teachers, students, and admin staff all organized using inheritance. Every person in the system, whether teacher, student, or admin, shares the common name, age, and email attributes and the get info method from the person parent class. But each child class overrides get info method to add its own specific details on top of the base information. And all three types of people are completely independent classes that can be extended further as the system grows. This is how real software systems are built. Now let's push everything to GitHub. Let's go and check GitHub. You can see that our new files have appeared in the repository.